From my point of view as a privacy professional, we've seen the rise of personal data as being one of the key issues on the information security agenda. It used to be hidden in data protection, in corporate governance. Information security professionals are now beginning to recognise that personal data is one of the most critical corporate assets and are having to become privacy experts in order to manage that asset. We see a lot of clients, of course, where the first time that they notice personal data is when they've lost some of it, and at that point it's inevitably too late. Very rarely do you ever see a simple information security incident make the headlines, but it's very quick for a personal data loss to make it, even if in fact it has far less impact upon the organisation. The EU General Data Protection Regulation has now been approved by the Parliament, although there's still a final stage for it to go through before it will then be enacted. It will provide a common framework for law across the European Economic Area. It will replace the Data Protection Act, which itself is derived from the EU Data Protection Directive. So we will effectively, from about 18 months' time, be governed by a single European law for data protection. Now, companies are going to need to prepare for this now, because there are provisions in there that will require them to be ready in contracts, for example, that they're signing today, which will ride over into that period. Privacy has never been a firm concept or a simple flat landscape. But the two big things that are really hitting us at the moment, number one is the General Data Protection Regulation. So enforcement will come through much greater fines than anyone has seen to date. Companies will be expected to improve their consent mechanisms, to open up data portability, to appoint data protection officers, which has not been a mandatory requirement before. The other issue that's coming is the EU-US Privacy Shield, as it's currently known. So in the wake of the collapse of Safe Harbor in October last year, companies can no longer use that as a mechanism for a legal basis to transfer personal data to the US. The new Privacy Shield has been proposed as a legal basis. My instinct is it's not going to get through, but maybe it will. But either way, any organisation that wishes to transfer data to the US at the moment has got a real mess on its hands unless their lawyers have been working overtime. The changes for many companies that they'll have to make as a result of these could be quite significant. I mean, if you have to withdraw from a cloud services contract because the hosting is in the US, these will be strategic business impacts coming directly as a result of privacy requirements. So if there's one thing that a director can do, it's to appoint a data protection officer if you don't already have one. This is absolutely critical for any company that needs to understand its risk and to implement appropriate controls over personal data. Without that focal point to create policy, to ensure implementation, and to manage stakeholder needs, nothing else will then flow out across the organisation, and you'll never achieve a viable information management system that will be needed to comply with the law.